This is class 5, video number 13, and we are having our writer's workshop. So let's start with a quote to get us going. Serious writers write, inspired or not. For time they discover that routine is a better friend than inspiration. So I have a writing exercise for you. I'm going to present it to you now, but then I will leave this, this slide up at the very end of this video for today. And your writing exercise is to write some haikus. Next, to challenge you, write haikus about writing. No need to be great. 3 different haikus to share various feelings. A thesaurus helps. No timer this week. Write until the task is done. I believe in you. So if you're not familiar with haikus, they are a poem, a Japanese poetry art, where you have 5 syllables, 7 syllables, 5 syllables. So next to challenge you, 5 syllables, write haikus about writing. 7 syllables, no need to be great. So this is more just about thinking about form and how we can also change rhythm. And I also want to just kind of get a little into your feelings about writing in particular. And I think we're all over the place. I think some of you find great joy in it. I think some of you find it languishing. And then we have some things in the middle. So I think this will bring out some wonderful explorations for all of you and ask you to do it in a slightly different way. So you were doing your editing assignment this week. I asked you to use track changes. Probably by in a day or two, you will get a package of all of the editings that you've received from 2 peers in our class and myself. So you will get that sometime very soon so you can see what people have written for you. So my general comments about editing and your own work and what I noticed through about your writing, a big comment I'm going to have to all of you is read your work aloud or have somebody read it to you. One of the benefits of doing this is you hear rhythms, you hear what's working, you hear missed words much more elaborately. And I know we've definitely mentioned this before, but I'm going to challenge you. If you've never done it before, start doing it now. It's one of the most powerful tools you can use to edit your own work. And I can also show you in a minute how you can get the computer to read it for you. So I will do that here in a second. Single space between sentences. So we're going to be, if you are from the old school manner of double space, we're going to be moving towards single space. That is generally considered the tried and true way anymore, especially in the world of non-typewriter writing. Oxford comma for the win. Okay, so when we have sets of 3, so let's say we are saying, oh, gee golly whiz, I am tired, cranky, and ready to go to bed. So you have these sets of 3s. You will always have the second one with the comma. So let me show you what that looks like. Oxford comma, example. And in fact, usually what I tend to find, yes, this is exactly right. This is the kind of thing we want to see. This will show you the difference between why we use the Oxford comma and why we don't. So open image in new tab. That's what I want. So with the Oxford comma, we have strippers, comma, JFK, comma, and Stalin. Without the Oxford comma, we invite strippers, JFK and Stalin. So saying that the strippers are JFK and Stalin. So instead we are going to, of course, use the Oxford comma because then it really gives us 3 separate ideas rather than an idea that encompasses the last 2 ideas. That's why we use the Oxford comma. It's much clearer. In this writing at this point, we're also going to avoid contractions. The only one that you are really able, actually none of them. Nope, never mind. I was about to say something and I just disagreed with myself. Never mind. So no contractions at this point. The last thing that I will say is, as far as general comments, and then I'm going to go to in a couple things and I'll go into a little bit more detail, is your tenses. Make sure that in one paragraph, all of your tenses agree. So make sure you're either using entirely past tense or you're using entirely present tense or future tense or whatever the case may be as you go through the writing in that. When you jump between those things, it discombobulates the writing, makes it difficult to follow. So that's going to be adding to your list of things to edit. Okay, something that's a little bit more detailed is the idea of filler words. And the most common one, the one that what I mean by filler words is it doesn't add a whole lot of punch to your writing. It usually just seems a little trite and slows it down and not as powerful. But the one that I always want you to avoid Sorry for the absolute, is very. Almost always, very is a not very strong word. And so you can hear it. Here's a good chart that shows you how if you say very, because it's a modifier, it's an adverb, as to whatever it's connected to, there's usually a better word choice. And that adds more power to what you're doing. So you can see throughout this chart how by substituting very for, and in addition to the word it's modifying, there's usually a better word for you. So use that. There are other couple filler words that occupy a similar space. Really, quite, just, even. These are all ones that you can usually do a find all in your window and probably get rid of most of them. And here's another good example of from Dead Poet Society, why to avoid the word very. So avoid the word very because it's lazy. Man is not very tired, he is exhausted. Don't use very sad, use morose. Language was invented for one reason, boys, to woo women. Don't know if I agree with that, but the sentiment is there. And in that endeavor, laziness will not do. Love the idea, don't necessarily need the last part. Oh, well. All right, the other one I want to spend a little bit more time unpacking is the idea of passive voice. So passive voice is something that it can slow the language down. These are example of passive voice, right? Is being, was being, has been, has been. These are all passive voice. And so what we want to do is make the passive verb, the one in green, active. So a cake is made, rather I make a cake, right? And see all these different ways that we can make the word active. And usually what it boils down to is finding an action verb more than anything else, right? So use that to go through your writing. Not every passive voice usually needs to be killed, but a good chunk of them, because it is something that can slow your writing down, and it makes the writing more difficult to read. Here's another example of that. Also a funny. So the active verb in this case is ate, right? If you made it passive, 6 donuts were eaten slows it down, right? Passive aggressive. Yes, it's funny. All right. And then lastly, as you are learning to edit someone else's work, I have a list. Ooh, bye-bye, Oxford comma. What we call 10 commandments for editing somebody else's work. And while this is written for somebody who's editing a book, I think the sentiment definitely is there. And so remembering that your job is not to tell somebody how you would write it. Your job is to help them write. And so look through these. I will have this link set up for you as well. But really the big part of it is helping, right? So make sure that in the process of helping someone, you actually do that and you give them clear things to work on, but also you're very positive about what they need to do. No one likes to be ripped to shreds and then continue to work on their work. So find ways to help them, make it their writing, and then be clear about what it needs to be helped along the way. So flip through that link for you. Would you do that? And then lastly, as you go through these comments from 2 others and myself, I want you to go through them slowly. Take time with them. Go through each comment and the suggested edit one by one. Understand what's a part of that edit as you unpack it. Notice what are common between various editors, but also within that editor itself. There might be something that comes back several times. This should then become a list for yourself of how you will then go through and edit your work in the future. So for example, if all of your peers make a note that you're using the word very too much, put that on your list of things that before you submit in the future, you're going to make sure you double check that you've gone through that edit and you've made sure you made a point of filtering that out of your writing for the future. So start making an editing list, a thing of really concrete topics for you to go through. And when I go through my own list of things I know I need to look for, I go through them one by one. So one pass is always just searching for all the varies. One pass is through the paper is always just searching for all the passive tense, and so on and so forth as I go through my writing. So I have found that the more I write, the more time I spend editing. And usually one of the best things that I can do is make sure that I don't write the night something's due, that I write, and then I have time to sit with it, and then I read it one more time, maybe a day, maybe an hour, maybe however much time I can possibly allocate, so that the writing and the editing process can be far removed from each other. Things are going to be easier to notice when those two steps are separated out from one another. Okay, so that's enough on editing. Next step, we're going to talk about your final paper. And I'm bringing this up only because it's going to be important conversation moving forward from here. So as mentioned in the very first video in our class, our very first set of videos, I don't remember if it was the first one or the third one, you're going to be writing a article that would be appropriate for Music Educators Journal, just like the ones we've been reading. So one of the most important things for you to do as you move through some of the other future assignments is start thinking about a topic that's important for you. So all of these papers have a particular topic and a particular bend they want you to get out of those topics. So now's the time to start thinking about that topic. So less about the paper, but more about the topic. And in particular, here's why. So your assignment, one of your assignments this week, is to do your first annotation assignments. You're going to find 3 articles that are relevant to your paper. You're going to create a bibliography reference in APA form for each article, and then a summary of the relevant findings that would be helpful to you in your paper. You're going to do this in a Word doc, and you're going to put it on your WordPress page, just like you did for writing assignment number 1. These articles, they can be MAJ articles, or they can come out of the other scholarly works that are a part of the music education perspective. So the Journal of Research in Music Education, update applications in music education, drawing a blank. There's a pile of them. The British Journal of Music Education Research, the International Journal of Music Education Research, the, what's the one? A Bulletin. That's the one. Bulletin is a publication out of the University of Illinois, which is another music education research journal. So any of these would be excellent journals to pull from. But they can also be scholarly journals in other topic areas if that relates to ultimately something that will be important for your music education journal capstone project. So 3 articles that will be relevant for you. Create the bibliography reference, and then you're going to give me a summary of findings in that Word article. So these 2 are connected. So in order that you make the best use of this assignment, you're definitely going to want to make sure you've started to brainstorm what is the topic that you think you're going to be. And it can be kind of broad right now. You don't necessarily have to have it super narrowed, but something in your wheelhouse I think will give you a good start on where you want to go there. The other thing that I'm going to bring up to you is the idea that you're going to, of course, be doing your article presentation, just like I've been doing throughout this course. As you look for these articles, you might find one MAJ article that works particularly well for that. So that's just something to keep in the back of your brain as you are working for next week on this. Keep in mind these 2 projects as well. So for next time, you're going to be reading Measure 5 of the music lesson. We have 2 MAJ articles on diversity and identity by Fitzpatrick and on inclusion by Peters. You have discussion 4B and 5A, which includes your writing exercise for 5A. And then you have a written response for these 2 articles and your annotation assignment. So we don't have 3 videos this week, we just have the 1, so things aren't as broken up. But I would suggest the order that we usually do things: 4B, 5A, written response, annotation, which then connects with these readings. And here it is. Here's your writing exercise. Good luck to you. 3 haikus, all about writing. Talk to you soon.